There is only one perfect solution, but there are clues that will try to trick our team.
Hello there, everyone. My name is Crazy Caleb, and that module you just saw light up when you in the down position is unpleasant squares. So this is the way the module looks. It has a series of 5 different colors, red, yellow, jade, azure, and violet. And what's going to happen is we need to figure out a 5 by 5 grid for each of the 25 cells and what each of their colors are. So let's actually figure this out. Now, as you can see here, tilting the module will indeed change the color into several different colors here. So that's a pretty big indication of what exactly we're going to be looking at here. Now, as the name implies, this module is an unpleasant experience because of the fact that you need to find a 5 by 5 grid by tilting the module in each specific direction. It's very sensitive to very little tilts, and it is quite hell if you happen to get one color wrong. So let's take a look here. So the way that this module actually works, and the way that you want to tilt each guy to get each of the 25 grids here, 25 cells here, is you want to essentially point the status light to where each of the colors are going to be. So for example, this is going to be alpha 1 right here. You can hear the highlights. Just as a rough estimation of where they are. Shut up, alarm clock, please. So essentially what this means is that you want to actually start in the bottom right in order to get alpha 1. And this color corresponds to jade. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with the colors, red is red, yellow is yellow. Jade is sort of your greenish color. It should be pretty easy to tell. Azure is your blue, and violet is your purple. So those are the colors we're going to be working with here. So for example, this one that we have right here on the screen is violet, but we don't know exactly which one it corresponds to. Now, one of the things we must point out is the center cell actually will not have a color. The center where the status light is, if you hold it upright, it happens to go back to the silver background, so that's where it's at right now. And let's figure this out. So we have, for the top left, we have what appears to be jade. And if we keep moving over a little bit, we mark jade right on here. So we have jade. And what looks like a red. Then another red. So 2 reds. Red, red, and then over to here. Jade. And that appears to be a yellow. Looks like it's shading into a yellow. So jade and then yellow. All right, and that's our first row that we're going to be looking at here. So our next row, let's take a look here. That looks like it's... It looks like it's an azure. However, it could be a jade. I'd say it's azure. Then it goes into jade. So azure and then jade. And over into yellow. Then violet. And yellow. Interesting. Hold on. So we have, I believe, actually, it may start with jade. Then over into yellow. It may start with jade, then into yellow, and then violet. Then red, and then a yellow. Red and then yellow. All right. Next up for the middle row, we're going to highlight it like this. So that's going to be a violet, then an azure, then the center, then what appears to be, if we get closer to it, that looks like it's an azure. I'm going to check that. So we have, starting on the left side, we have violet, and then over to azure. Yeah, violet, azure. And we have the center, then azure, then yellow. Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. Then the question mark, because we don't know the center, then azure, and then yellow. Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. All right, next up we have for row 4. Row 4 is going to be what looks like it's going to be red, yellow, azure, yellow, and then red. Red, yellow, azure, yellow, red. Let's make sure of that. Let's double check that. So we have red, then yellow, then azure, then yellow, then red. That looks good. Now, the bottom row is probably the trickiest without question. So, the bottom row, we start off with... Actually, maybe violet for that row. And then we have jade, then azure, and a jade, and then back to that red. This module is very tricky, as you can tell. So actually, what I want to do is probably what we're going to want to do here is we're actually going to want to find all of the 4 rows that we have so far. But red looks like it's in the bottom left. Actually, let's scroll up a little bit more. It looks like it actually starts with a violet, then a yellow, then jade, violet, yellow, jade, red, and then bottom right consists of I think red. I think there's another red. Jade, yellow, and violet. Violet, yellow, jade, perhaps azure. Azure and then red? I think let's go with that. All right, and now that we have our little 5x5 grid, what we need to do is we need to find this in this 16 by 16 grid below, except for the center cell, which is hidden. So let's find this here. Now, it is important to note that this little grid this grid here, we simply need to find this in the northmost position. There is no rotations at all that you need to do. It's not rotated by any means necessary, so it's very simple. You just need to find the positions of which we have. However, we must keep in mind that 3 of the other cells, there will be 3 cells whose colors do not match. That does not include the center, as you would expect, because we don't actually know what the center is. And what we're going to do is we're going to select the mismatched cells in alphabetical order, but we'll get to that later. So first things first that I want to start off with is let's figure out where we actually start. And from what it looks like here, the first thing that we can do is for finding key stuff, we want to look for potential duplicates somewhere along the line, stuff like that. So we can take a look at this red, and see if we can figure out anything here. So we have jade, red, jade, yellow for our first row. And taking a look here, we have jade, red, violet, yellow. So this actually could be potentially an option that we have here. Now let's take a look at our next row. So we have jade, yellow, violet, red, yellow. So jade, yellow, violet. That's already looking like it's wrong. So no, that is not what we're going to be starting at. Let's find that red. That red is going to be important here. So that's going to be what we're going to be looking for. However, we must keep in mind that there is the potential of this actually being one of the 3 cells that is wrong, actually. So let's actually make sure we got that read correctly. Jade, red. I'm quite comfortable with that being jade, and then yellow. Yeah, I'm quite comfortable with that being yellow. Okay. So perhaps we could be looking at perhaps here. So jade, red. This red right here for the 3rd position actually could be a jade, then another jade, then yellow. Then we have red, yellow, violet, red. That's not looking like it's it, so nope. Then let's keep looking around. So let's look for 2 jades that are 2 spaces in between and 4 spaces that are apart, perhaps. Otherwise, what we can do is we can look for other ones here. So we can look at these 2 reds, for example. Of course, I'm not quite comfortable with these reds. Let's actually look for these 3 yellows on this border here. So if we can find 3 yellows that are all together, that would be nice. However, I doubt that that's going to be the case this time around. A yellow, blank, red. Perhaps we could be looking at here. So yellow, blank, red. Echo 3 could perhaps be one of our ones that we're missing here. But let's actually take a look around. So let's start with this row here. So we have jade, yellow, violet, jade. Nope, that's already going to be wrong because there's more than 3 that are wrong here. However, looking at this row, we had violet, azure, blank, azure, and yellow. That could have been it right there. That could have been really close. So let's keep looking around. Then we have red, yellow, azure, yellow, violet. Ooh, wait, I might be looking at this wrong. Hold on. Hold on a second. So we have yellow, the blank, and then red. That was the rightmost that we have. Then we have jade, yellow, violet, jade, red. That's already going to be false because we already have more than 3 that are in the wrong position, so let's keep looking. This is an interesting one. We have again, I'm not super duper comfortable with this bottom right being red, but it is looking more and more like it is red, so I'm quite comfortable with that answer. Actually, it's looking more like the top right is jade. So I'm actually going to change that to that top right yellow to jade, actually. Hold on a second. Yeah, that's looking more like jade. Because if we hold it up like this, I guess that is a good catch, yeah. Okay, let's take a look then. That actually does change up things a little bit here. So jade, red, red, jade, jade. Let's take a look for those. It's very close. I know it's very annoying. It's just the inverse of that, unfortunately. Jade, red, red, jade, jade. And another thing to note is actually this doesn't move around at all, so just keep that in mind. I'm going to pause the video, and I'm going to get back to you when I figure this thing out. It's currently 48:20. Hopefully it'll take me a couple minutes probably to figure this thing out, but I'll save you guys the trouble of looking around while I figure this out. All right, I'm back. That actually took me a little bit of a minute here. So what I actually did was I actually looked back at that spot that we were looking at beforehand. That actually does change up our answer a little bit here. So taking a look around, we had at the beginning here, we had jade, red, red, jade, jade. So already taking a look here, let's actually keep moving down the rows. I'll explain here. Let me actually fix this to 9 so we have a position that's black. So we have on the right side, we have jade, yellow, yellow, red, red. So that means we have jade, yellow, yellow. This violet is obviously going to be one of our wrong answers here. So we have jade, yellow, yellow, red, red. And then taking a look at the rows, we have jade, yellow, violet, red, yellow. So that second row is right. Then we have, for the third row, we have violet, azure, question mark, which we don't know what that is, azure, and then yellow. Then for our fourth row, we have red, yellow, azure, yellow, red. So that means that violet is already wrong. And then what we need to do is we need to make sure that we actually have some of our colors right in the bottom row. This bottom row is probably the trickiest part of this entire module. But taking a look at the top row, we have azure and then violet for our first 2 positions, and then red and then jade. But what this already means is that actually potentially we already actually have our 3 answers here. So let's just make sure that we get this bottom row correctly. But we already have violet correctly at the alpha 5 position. We have yellow correct here at Bravo 5. What we need to make sure is that this jade that we marked as jade is a yellow, and we need to make sure this azure is actually marked as a jade. So let's make sure we figure out those 2, and then what we could potentially be looking at is a alpha 1, Bravo 1, and a echo 4 that happen to be our missing squares here. So let's pay attention to those. So yeah, so we're gonna look down at the immediate bottom. Yes, I actually do see that being a yellow, so that in this case would confirm that Charlie 5 is a yellow. So that actually confirms that up. Like I said, it's very particular about it. And if you happen to get a grid like this, what you can do is you can make sure with your diffuser, if that position happens to be true, if there happens to be a couple discrepancies, you need to figure out where these 3 cells actually are that do not match. It's very important that you figure that out. And then looking around here, yes, I can see that being jade instead of azure. That is definitely jade, absolutely. So that actually does clear up the discrepancies that we had from beforehand. Remember, the way that you look at it has to be where the status light is. It's very particular about this. You got to be very careful with how you rotate it because sometimes the colors do kind of blend together. But red definitely is in the bottom right. Then moving over 1 takes us to jade. Yep, that's definitely good. All right. So now exactly what do we do with this module? So now that we found our 3 positions that do not match, in this case alpha 1, since it was a jade, bravo 1 is a red, those 2 normally would have been azure and violet, and then echo 4, which is a violet, but it happens to be red on the module. What do we need to do with this? We need to figure out what our center color was. Then in this case, the center color we were looking at was a jade. So we're going to be taking a look at this little grid for the jade right here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the positions of which our 3 mismatched cells were, and we're going to select those in alphabetical order to solve the module. So we had Alpha 1, we had Bravo 1, and we had Echo 4. And in this case, taking a look here, we have Bravo Juliet Whiskey, and that is the alphabetical order you're going to select those guys in. So you're going to be selecting these 3 positions in alphabetical order. So you're going to select Bravo 1. Remember, you can use the highlights to help you figure out where you are. We're going to do Bravo 1. It's going to make a little hover sound. And note that if you happen to select a cell immediately,
Not the answer, I'm afraid.
it'll let you know immediately if you're wrong. So we have Bravo 1.
Nice guess, but that is
And it
not
also
the
notes
answer, I'm
that
afraid.
if you happen to select a correct cell, it'll note that you've already selected it. So we're going to select Echo 4. Then lastly, we're going to select Alpha 1 to solve the module. And just like that is the solved module. Let's take a look at one final example. And the module turns green. It's very beautiful. So let's take a look at one final example. The hardest part of this module is easily the diffuser side. The grid side is all pretty much dependent on the expert, making sure that they read the colors out right. So it's all heavily expert based. The work itself on the expert side, very simple. We were actually in the right area. We just needed to confirm a couple colors. That jade we said was wrong, and as well as a couple colors in the bottom row, but we were able to figure it out. That's what matters here. So let me make sure I'm recording. Yes, I am. That's perfect. Let's take a look at one final example. And actually, I'm kind of surprised that I got that read pretty well. I was not expecting to have it be successful as it was beforehand. So let's take a look at one final example. But I would advise you to have some practice with this, and I don't even want to envision what it's like on bigger bombs, because this module literally just got released 2 days ago, since it's the 6th for me at 1 a.m. in the morning. It just got released on the 4th. So let's be very careful with that. All right, let's take a look at this one final example here. So it's in the exact same position as it was before, so hopefully you should be able to get this read pretty easily. So let's start up here. So we start up with, this is appearing to be, it looks a lot closer to jade, I'll give you that. It looks very closer to jade, as it looks more greenish. Already off the bat with some very tricky stuff. Oh, actually, that's looking more like a yellow. So that's going to start with yellow. Then we're going to move over to, it's getting a little too dark to see. And it says if it turns black, it means it's tilted too far in any direction. Next up, our next color is going to be looking like an azure. Then over to violet, azure violet. Then what looks like a red. Then over to jade. And that actually looks like it's the rose, so red and then jade. Let me make sure of that. So we have yellow, then azure, then, ooh, wait, that violet actually might be red. Let me wait for the lights to turn back on. So let's see, red. Okay, that actually might be red in Bravo Charlie 1 rather. That's a jade. Jade. Oh yeah, that's actually that's definitely violet right there. Yeah, so that is violet. Then we have red, and then we have jade. Yeah, that looks like it's right. Okay. Next up, we're gonna go for the second row. We have azure. Then what looks like jade, azure jade. Then azure. So azure, jade, azure, then looks like it's going over to violet. Violet and then red. Violet and then red. Okay, third row, we have jade, azure, question mark. So jade, azure, question mark. We don't know what that is exactly. And then we have yellow, and then azure. Yellow, then azure. All right, next up, we have what appears to be, I want to say that's either jade or azure, because it looks like if we go down a little bit more, it looks like it's going more towards azure. Yeah, I did that azure because the jade was at Echo 1, right? Alpha 3 rather. So I'm going to say that's azure. Then it's looking like a violet. Violet, red, yellow, violet, red. Or no, that actually might be just yellow right there. We might have gotten some stuff from the bottom row accidentally. So we have I'd say that's safe to say violet. Then we have yellow below. Then azure. And it looks like it's more closer towards jade. Either jade or yellow. I think I'm gonna say jade. Oh no, wait, hold on. That's definitely looking like more like yellow, but so I did look at it from a different angle. So we have the yellow being right there. Then we have the azure there. And then we have, and it goes too dark. Yeah, it's really the bottom rows that are tricky. It's the middle is the easiest. The second row and the third row are definitely a little bit easier. However, I'm experiencing a little bit of technical difficulties with this one. I'd say it's safe to say that Delta 4 is an azure easily. I just don't know exactly what this guy is going to be. It's either jade or yellow. So mark that. We'll give us that little note there. Let's figure out the bottom row. So the bottom row, that's violet. That's looking definitely more towards violet. Then moving over, we have red. Violet, red. Might have to go by a little bit higher. Or maybe it starts off with azure. Azure, violet. Jade. Again, this is easily the trickiest bit, is just the bottom row here, because it's really hard to visualize it, especially when you're not at a corner that you want to see it from. Violet, azure, violet, azure, yellow, perhaps. Then jade. Perhaps two jades? Or jade and yellow? And let's see if we can figure out anything here. This is a bit of a weird one. And I guess one thing that we can immediately look for is looking at these four azures that are all in like a little shape like this, like a diamond almost. Let's maybe look for it and see if we can find anything with that. So it starts off, so let's actually just look around. Perhaps we can find these two yellows together, because I'm quite comfortable that these are both yellows. Yeah, they both stick to yellow. I'm quite comfortable with those two being both yellows. And then moving up. Oh, moving up, actually, this azure is actually going to be a yellow here. Hold on a second. And then up to a violet. Okay. Yeah, we fixed that Charlie 2 there. So actually what we could do is here, we can take a look here. We do have a violet, yellow, azure, yellow. So we have this, for the middle column here, we have violet and yellow. And then we don't know if that could be azure or not. Then yellow, these two guys down here. And then what we could do is we can look at each of the rows that we have here. So we start at row 1, we have yellow, azure, red, jade. That's looking promising. Okay. Let's mark this with number 9 now. That's not what I wanted to do. So let's mark this with number 9. So we have you, and you guys so far. Then we have azure, jade. Okay. Violet, red. Okay, that's looking very good. Those first two rows happen to be the exact same. I think this is exactly what we're looking at. So let's mark the one last one, please. Okay, so let's mark the fact that we have our middle being azure for later on. And let's take a look here. So we have jade azure. Hold on a second, that's different. Then jade azure. That's not the same as what we had before. So we had jade azure. But on here it pops up as red violet. That's very strange. Let's make sure that these are actually right. So we have azure and violet, or red. Azure violet. Yeah, I could see that being azure violet. Yep. Azure violet. Okay. I don't think. Maybe it is a jade. Hold on a second. That is a jade, actually. Yeah, that is a jade. So that's definitely jade. And you're definitely a violet. Yeah, you're definitely violet. Okay, so we fixed that guy. So I'm gonna mark this red. I'm gonna unmark this red because that could potentially be one of our guys that we're missing here. Then we have, let's keep moving to the right here. Let's make sure that we had yellow azure, which we did. Okay, so that means that this jade also could be potentially one of our mismatch colors. Then we have azure violet. Here's where things get a little bit weird. This is probably where my weakest area was. So let's actually make sure. So we were looking for an azure violet. That's already a big discrepancy. So what that means is we could potentially be looking at. I could have done something wrong here. So, but let's take a look at the right side. So we had azure and then yellow. I marked this as one of the potential yellows, either jade or yellow. So that actually could be potentially a yellow. So I'm going to mark this as a yellow for the time being. And then for the bottom row, we have jade, violet, yellow, yellow, jade. Okay, so that's a bit interesting. So we need to check the second row and the last row. Second to last and last row. So let's make sure we have these guys figured out here. Because I do exactly believe, I don't think there's any cases where there can be the exact same rows, 1 and 2 being the exact same like that. I think that we're looking at this example right here. We just need to figure out what colors we had from the 4th and 5th row, so we can actually figure out what this module is looking like. So, let's make sure we get the read correctly. Now, of course, we could actually be looking at the read I was supposed to get for the 4th row. This violet could be actually, for row 4. That actually could be one of the things that I messed up. Yes, I could actually see that being violet, red, then yellow. Yes, that's looking like more like violet, red. Yes. Okay, so that's that. Alpha 4 is looking like violet, and then Delta, then Bravo 4 is looking like red. That's looking promising. That actually clears up that row. Then for the bottom row, let's figure out which one we're missing here because one of them has to be wrong. I think we've pretty much confirmed that Alpha 3 and Delta 3 are the three that are two of the three that we're going to be missing here. So I'm going to mark these guys, Alpha 3 and Delta 3. So let's keep looking. So let's look at the bottom row, which is easily the trickiest bit. Now, what I'm looking for is a jade. Could I see a potential jade at the bottom left corner? I actually could right there. That actually might be the jade that we're looking for right there. And if we move over, can we get a violet? Yes, we can. That's looking very promising. So we have jade, violet, or alpha 5 and delta and bravo 5. That actually marks those two off. Now let's take a look at these last two. These last two are what we're going to be looking at here. So you have the yellow right there. Make sure we're looking at the bottom yellow. And moving over to jade. And then since I don't think it actually changes color, I actually think it stays as jade. So what we could be looking at here is that these are actually two jades. And just one of these two happen to be wrong. Yeah, because I don't see that being yellow in any stretch of the imagination. I don't think it's yellow. Yeah, it's more and more starting to look like jade. So I'm going to say jade, jade, and what this means is that we have our three missing spots right here. So we have alpha 3, which was normally supposed to be a red, but it's a jade. Delta 3, which happens to be a yellow on the module, but it's supposed to be a jade. And then Delta 5, which happens to be a jade, but it was supposed to be a yellow. So let's go with this answer. I believe we're looking at the correct answer, but of course I could be wrong, so let's figure this out. So remember that we had our azure as our middle section right here, and this is going to be the little grid that we're looking at here. So we're going to take a look at alpha 3, delta 3, and delta 5, and we're going to click these guys in alphabetical order. So we have Victor Whiskey Foxtrot, Victor Foxtrot X-Ray, sorry. So we're going to click this Foxtrot, Victor, and X-Ray, alphabetical order. So we have U. Okay, that sounds promising. Then we have U.
No, I can't accept it. I'm not.
Now, let's figure out what I did wrong here. So this means that actually we could be looking at a different area. Now perhaps this azure actually could have been different, and we actually could have had the yellow and the jade be right, actually. So, what we could have here is actually not azure. We could actually have a jade right there. That actually could be what we're missing here. These two actually could be right, and we could have just been missing that this was actually a jade the entire time. I do believe that is the case. I'm starting to believe it more and more. So you have the yellow right there. Oh yeah, it actually goes over to Jade. It looks like almost. Hold on a second. I think it's safe to confirm that this is definitely one of them. So that what that means is that one of these positions could have come before alphabetically. So let me take a look. Actually, I may be right that this is actually this is very strange. So obviously we got this position right, so the fact that that's right is right. However, we actually could be looking at these two guys. But that actually doesn't make sense. So we already know that it's not Alpha 5. That actually pretty much confirms that this is going to be Jade regardless. So what this means is that it's not Alpha 5, so this means that this is indeed a Jade. The fact that we click Foxtrot first before the Bravo means that we're right. So here, I'm going to pause and I'm going to figure out my mistake here. This is very important that I do this, figure this out, because I might have misread one of the letters here, so I'm going to figure that out. Okay, so I've appeared to have found my discrepancy here. So it's not these bottom two guys here. What we actually did was I actually noted this down wrong. Bravo 2 actually is a red, not a jade. That is completely my fault, and I must have typoed that somewhere along the lines. So this is actually going to be a red, and what this means is we take a look at Bravo 2 here. Bravo 2 is supposed to be a jade, however, it is a red. So that is my bad. I looked for that after a while. As you can see, I've spent about 18 minutes on this. So my bad for that. Let's just ignore that. Anyways, we have our 3 spots, and we've already clicked here. So what we need to do is we had the Azure as our center. We already clicked Delta 3, and as you can already tell, Bravo 2 comes before Alpha 3 because Romeo comes before Victor. So let's click these two guys to solve the module. So Bravo 2, and then Alpha 3. And just like that is the solved module. Apologies for my mistakes. It won't happen again. I happened to look through all of that again just to make sure that I didn't miss anything. This yellow and the jade were correct the whole time. Again, very tricky module to get. It's very tricky to get the read in. But with enough practice, I'm sure you guys will be able to do it. As always, stay crazy, stay cool, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.